Okay. Here's that next one then. So, welcome to Aural Hygiene. This is the podcast where we look at educational films, experimental avant-garde films, and weird documentaries. This is Matt, and hello, Andrew Shearer.
Hello, Matt Comegys.
Yeah. No, I never say my last name in here. I did put it in there. I started at first I was like, should I put Matt and then put the full name of whoever I'm talking to? I was like, I got to put my full name in the description at least.
You do. It's the only responsible way to handle it.
Yeah. But you're back for the second round of recording here, and your request was juvenile delinquency, which
Yeah.
we've got right in the title here. What about juvenile delinquency?
Yeah.
Of course, there's some corkers in the 50s, some quote unquote feature length ones being like 50 or 60 minutes, but which
Sure.
we'll get to. This one's just like a squib. This is like a 12-minute thing. What about juvenile delinquency?
What
But
about juvenile delinquency?
well, you're gonna find out what about it. This is the first Centron film we've done. Centron, I believe, is that Lawrence, Kansas consortium of Midwest educational filmmaking.
Yeah.
The plus side is we eventually get to do Carnival of Souls on this podcast because I believe that was it was the guy that directed most of the Centron film. So
Herc Harvey. Yeah,
yeah,
he made Carnival of Souls in about 3 weeks in between making stuff for Centron, and he made your Shake Hands with Danger also,
yes, he did.
one of the ones you showed me. And so yeah, but
I don't think he
Centron
made this
though,
one, but
yeah, he made one. Well, it was kind of like he did it. I mean, Carnival of Souls was the only feature that he made, so he like, he did these, and this was 55. Carnival was 62. Um,
maybe he
for
was
those who
there.
haven't seen it, it was the inspiration. Carnival of Souls basically the inspiration for Night of the Living Dead. I mean, it's a pretty important movie, but it was the only feature he made. Then he went right back to doing his Centron stuff.
Yeah, but he's still one of my favorite directors, which is probably why I'm doing this podcast. But
Well, Centron, they're always good, because they weren't like Cornet, which they had to crank out like 5 movies a year or whatever, or 5 a month. I don't know what was going on over there with, but Centron didn't have to do that because they also had like really high paying industrial gigs and promotional gigs. So as a result, I mean they had their own studio. It was really nice.
houses are
And they
cheaper
were
in
able to,
Lawrence, Kansas.
yeah. No, they had it. That's why I really like What About Juvenile Delinquency, don't you? I mean, it's a
Oh,
great movie, I think.
yeah, it's like a John Waters in miniature.
Yeah, and it's a brisk, like not even 12 minutes. I mean, it just moves. It's great.
Well, can you hit us with the 4 or 5 sentence TV guide style plot synopsis here?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is 55, Herc Harvey. It's a movie about a kid who runs with a gang, the local gang of toughs, and the local gang of toughs, on their way to pick him up, do a little fender bender with this bald rube that they then I guess they rough him up. Let's just say, and it turns out that that's the father of someone in the gang. Dun-dun-dun. So all of a sudden, it's what are we gonna do about you? What are you going to do about juvenile delinquency?
Yeah, we're doing with this film once. It wants us to have a discussion about it after watching it.
It
don't
does. I mean, the
don't
best
succumb to
ones,
the
that's what they were
film.
for.
So this one actually is directed by Herc Harvey. Then I think maybe I like glazed over for the. Yeah, I thought this was before he started, but I'm my time. Like you said, I thought Carnival of Souls was like 68 or something. So it actually does
No,
fit
no, it
nicely
was
into the timeline.
62.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was making these, and then took a couple of weeks and made that and made history, and then right back into these.
But yeah, these are definitely the ruffians that you would find in John Waters' Crybaby. Not quite as hardcore as the ruffians you'd find in 70s films, but
No, but still, I mean, it's that kind of clunky time where what year was the Wild One? Was it 58? Was that 55 also?
I want to say it's 55. Yeah, but
Yeah, you weren't seeing like you were not yet seeing like juvenile delinquents, like very violent people. it was still sort of the Hollywoodized version of them. So the
They have
gang in
nice
this movie,
jackets.
yeah, they did. Of course, their insignia, clearly their grandmas all made it, because it's just like sort of this little crafty, pipe cleaner thing glued to felt that's then sewn very poorly with white thread. No, use black.
I
to
just looked up your wild
to all
one
their
date.
jackets.
53 for the wild one.
Okay, cool. So it explains why they're sort of handling this situation the way that they did, because the Wild One is a classic, obviously, with Brando, and it's a movie where the youth are shown a little bit wilder. You got Lee Marvin is one of them, for example. But yeah, they're the kids are like speeding around in their car. They rear end an old guy and he comes out, and I just the writing in this is great. And I can't remember what other company it was, but Centron also was right near a college, so like this built-in place for their acting pool. I thought the performances in this were good. It's hard to make fun. It's so well made. It's actually hard to make fun of. What about Juvenile Delinquency? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, sometimes that's the Centron thing. The Centron films are usually quite well made.
Yeah.
And then some of the, is it Preden's Hall or whatever, the textbook
Prentice,
maker,
yeah.
Prentice. I never knew how to say that. Anyway, theirs tend to be relatively more top shelf. And in our last time chatting, we just did like a Disney educational film that kind of went off the rails, but Disney did on less not controversial. Anyway, they did better with different topic material, like bombing the shit out of other countries. They could do that well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Mickey Mouse does.
It is.
But let's see. I got a few notes here. Oh yeah, I just have that. Yeah, fucking bald ass dads getting in the way of Jamie's gangsta flash patch.
Was his name Jay? You know what I liked?
Flash mob.
Yeah, the dad was great. He gives his mom a bit of an attitude. I mean, they established Jamie pretty well, because he's gonna go out with his friends. He's gonna go out and wait for him or whatever. And his mom's like, "Oh, Jamie, where are you going?" I don't know.
Jamie does what the fuck he wants.
Exactly. well, while you're doing what the fuck you want, make sure you bring a jacket. It's chilly out. Fuck you, Mom. Goodbye, dear.
I mean, maybe Dad, needed to get bonked in the head a few times.
He seemed to have no idea that his son was a monster, because, what does it take for his dad to kind of put it together that his son's in this gang? And the way he plays it is pretty cool. I like this movie. I like the way they did it. I mean, it works great as a short film, because you got he meets up with his buddies after they've whipped his dad's ass, which they don't show. They just show them crowding around him, but you don't need to, because later you see that the dad's been beaten. He's got this gash in his head. They meet up at the soda
ice
shop.
Cream. Oh yeah, I put Thug Life at the ice cream joint.
Whatever it is. But he, one of the gang leaders like, "Hey, Jamie, check out this pen I got. I got it off this guy who looks just like your dad and drives your dad's car." And then he's like, he doesn't tell him that was my dad, but he gets really pissed and starts asking a lot of questions, like, was there an Oak Ridge Boys tape in the deck? Was there a crumpled lunch bag that said Jamie on it in the back? He starts just asking him like all these things.
Was he huffing glue out of it?
That's right. Was my mom in the back seat? Was my mom in the front seat? Was my mom's sister in the front and my mom in the back?
My mom used to ask those sort of questions to people.
She did. That's true.
She'd like, I think she once gave me shit for like not knowing like what kind of shampoo one of my friends used. I'm like, well, why the fuck would I know that?
It was different times.
Yeah.
But I love the way that they set up all these situations. And then of course Jamie comes home and sees his dad with his ass whooped, and he's in his jacket, but not once does his dad go, "Hey, that jacket you wear is the same jacket these punks wear. That thing that grandma sewed to your jacket that she made out of garbage looks exactly like the things that these guys' jackets are made out of garbage. What? You wouldn't know anything about them, would you?" There's
He's
no
a, he
connection here, is there?
he was just there's that voice crack. He was just being initiated though, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I had
guess
the
so.
impression he was getting his grand entry to being like a real thug, you know?
Yeah, that must be why he turned tail so quickly. I'm not gonna be in your gang. Yeah, he tears off the patch, throws it at him. Like, what's he so sore about?
Yeah, it
Let him
seemed
go.
yeah, it seemed he's like, you don't join any club that would have you as a member, right?
They were exactly, but they set up the story so well. I mean, the editing's great, all the characterization and stuff. You establish everything so quick. I mean, yeah, it's a great movie. Um,
Are you familiar with the bad boy youth culture of Japan?
sort of. What
Okay.
what is it like now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Although there's a film, but it's probably about 15, 20 years old now. But the English title is Kamikaze Girls, I think.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That would be a pretty good just a totally weird look, but yeah, they're called the Bossazoku, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're too young to be in the Yakuza, and some of the things is do you ask if they're around now? Yes, they are, because when it gets warm, you start hearing like these not they're like scooters, they're not quite motorcycles, but they just rip ass on the engines all around town, and there's like a like at like 30 miles an hour. There's like a cop car following them at like 30 miles an hour, because I was in an apartment a few years ago, and they were just like for like 2 hours you would just hear the engines circling. They're just driving around town slowly with a cop car following them, and the back seats really high, and their jackets are filled with kanji, and the kanji doesn't make sense. It's like they're trying to make words based just on the sound, but not the actual meaning of the kanji. So if you do know Japanese, like what's on their jackets is like completely ridiculous.
That's genius, man. They sound awesome to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I they seem about as threatening as Jamie's gang here in general.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't imagine that they beat people up too often. This is just they're all just like riled up on, pent up sexual frustration and they got to take it out on somebody. So, want to take a ride, old man? We'll
only
kick your
chickens
fucking.
don't bee bump into the back of cars, man.
Yeah, that's true. So, uh, yeah, ripped from the headlines, this one. But what I thought was really interesting about what about juvenile delinquency is that what happens at school afterward, because he goes to school the next day, Jamie, and he's kind of caught between two different classes of students. You've got his buddies that were in the gang that don't immediately beat the shit out of him for some reason. They still kind of consider him part of, even though he clearly resigned the night before. But the goody goodies come in and say, hey, they're issuing this curfew because of delinquency. No teenagers can, be out late at night, and the basic message is they're punishing the whole class.
And then they're going to lower the driving age. I don't think you can do that with a local statute.
I don't know. I think the point was that, young people seeing it would just be like, oh crap, you know, that was
And
the
then
whole idea
well, they take
to
it up to
try
the
and,
next level then, right? Where they have the town hall meeting. Mayor
yeah, that
Honey,
was,
tough as shit, man.
it was such a great scene. Just this room full of old dudes, harumph, harumph. And then the teacher has invited these students. They don't just bust it up. The teachers actually encourage his students, not the gang. The gang doesn't show up. At least I didn't see them there. They said they weren't going to go, so I guess they didn't show up. But Jamie does, because his dad is the one who got beat up by the gang, and so he's like their star witness.
Yeah.
And so the teacher's like, no, no, the kids got the right to speak. We want to be free to ride
I think
our
everyone is
machine.
right. The principal, I think that was actually the principal. Yeah. He had
Yeah, okay, whatever. They
I
should have
think you
just.
were getting, I think you were getting his voice pretty on target. I noticed this guy sounds like a wimp.
Yeah,
He's the next person that the Flash gang's gonna beat the crap out of.
I was gonna say they should have just all swarmed the mayor or whatever it was, and just stomped his ass too. But that's the thing they're trying to say. Well, not all teenagers are bad, but it doesn't matter. The teenagers that are bad are going to spoil all this shit and they're going to cancel the football game. We're gonna cancel Homecoming. Everyone's gonna get canceled.
I like this
So
movie, but I'm going to put on my writer's hat and make it just a little bit better.
okay.
Instead of asking us what can you do to prevent juvenile delinquency, instead the final scene of the movie kind of turns into like the opening scene of The Wild Angels. They replace their flash patches with some Nazi armbands and are just
Oh God, I can only imagine. Oh man, God, the funeral in that movie.
yeah. So
Well,
town hall meeting for that.
yeah. And
So
so,
what can you do to prevent juvenile delinquency then?
I mean, obviously, show them those VD movies that they showed at the end of Mom and Dad. I
There
don't
we go.
know. I mean, you can't like maybe not have juvenile delinquents be so cool, you know?
Were we delinquents? I don't know.
I was not a delinquent, but I certainly styled myself after the what would it be the bad girl gang in my junior high school. They wore fake leather jackets, or maybe some of them were real, with pins all over it of various rude things and heavy metal bands. They grew their hair out very long on one side, and I remember just wanting to look like them as much as I could. So I started doing my hair like they did, grew it out, got the fake leather, got the buttons and everything. I mean, I wouldn't have smoked and done all the bad things they did, but I certainly thought they looked cool and wanted to model my at least my outward appearance after them.
See, I don't know what I was. I'm because if you remember, I showed up to a punk rock show in a Boy Scout uniform, not knowing that the Clash's bass player had also done that.
Yeah, no, you were just naturally cool. I mean, you were way ahead of all of us, I think.
Well, I had actually come directly from summer camp to the show, so there was no time to
That's more
change.
punk than anyone was doing in that whole place, I promise you.
That was at summer camp. I
That
think
was punk.
that might be the day I got on my first nosebleed too. That would have been back at the camp. Someone like it might have even been my dad tossed me the cap, which had in the brim. It's like the trucker hat with the hard brim, and it
Huh.
and it and it. I didn't catch it, and it got me like boom right in the nose. And,
Oh, immediately bleeding?
yeah,
That's see
the
that
brim.
still though, but that's more punk rock than punk rock.
Yeah, in the woods. Yeah,
Violence and uniforms and yeah.
right. But yeah. We were. I certainly didn't toe the straight edge line, but I think we were we were young thugs that did do that at least in high school. I think all of us
Yeah.
were. I think clove cigarettes
We
was the
were
worst thing that came through our way at the time.
yeah. No, we didn't commit crime. We just were I guess if conformity was adhering to expected teenage behaviors, we were definitely countering that by doing our own thing rather than becoming part of any sort of clique or being overly concerned with fitting in. Which I always say that no gym teacher could ever try to make a bunch of kids dress alike, but rock and roll was pretty great at doing it.
Yeah, I guess we were still kind of out and about in a way that especially I'm talking pre-COVID here, but in Japan kids just like hang out at home all the time. I don't
I
know.
mean,
Yeah,
my
I don't know
my
what
folks they were cool with me, whatever I wanted to do, as long as the cops weren't bringing me home from it.
exactly. Yeah, that was when I was like 13. That was a weird thing. When I was 13, 14, I was out till like 4 a.m. because we were playing shows. And then when I was like in senior year in high school, it's like be home by midnight. It's like, what? But I was out till 4 in the morning when I was like 14.
Yes, different times.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess this is I'm thinking of the films we've done. I guess this is the first one on the podcast that is legitimately like well made.
Yeah, no, this is a great one. It's on YouTube, and it's not some weird bootleg quality. It's excellent.
Yeah, no, everything on this podcast is something that at least when we're recording is something you can get on YouTube. So
Yeah,
um,
this is a good one.
I have a feeling educational films are not the sort of thing that tend to get ripped off of YouTube anyway. So
I mean, not unless you're teaching a class on educational films from the back in the day.
right. But Did you have any other points you wanted to throw out on this one? Any more impressions? Those are fun too. I think I interrupted one of your impressions.
Oh, I don't know. Who was I doing an impression of? I think I was doing like monologue from one of those Peter Fonda movies. I don't think I was necessarily. I don't know. It just the uh, the version of the 1950s that is kind of like romanticized and whatever is of course on full display here. Everyone is white, and you have your good kids and your bad kids, and you have the adults put in danger. But the main theme is don't be a delinquent because your daddy could get hurt, and then they take away your football.
I guess that is the difference in the John Waters film or the David Lynch film. In the John Waters film, where after that meeting, they're going to go to the back streets jazz club and smoke some reefer.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Um,
And then the David Lynch film, you're going to run into Frank Booth.
that I love Blue Velvet because it counters that squeaky clean image of that. I remember Jello Biafra had that song "Nostalgia for an Age That Never Existed," and I think that's absolutely true. The '50s weren't this time when everything was very innocent, and I love that exists, and
That's
that
exactly what the surface of Blue Velvet is, right? It's
Mhm.
just
Oh, absolutely.
get under that.
I mean, it establishes it, right? Not to start talking about a movie that we're not talking about, but right from the beginning with that human ear. I mean, that's all you need to know. It's great.
I mean, no, for me that movie sort of like um that allows Dune to exist, right? Because that was the thing, is like he was also offered to Return of the Jedi, but Dune, the Lawrences, who are known for being tightwads, but in this case they said they'd also give him the money for Blue Velvet. So
there you go. I mean, the example is there. I mean, it's not hard to imagine that the way that played out.
Dune's what we can't talk about. I have a Sci-Fi Sanctuary where I can talck about that one, but a Blue Velvet, yeah, this is probably the time and place to have had a few words there. So speaking of, I know you have a clock running, so if you want to hear more about sci-fi movies, head to Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary MLSFS Pod at Twitter, Facebook. That time I just stared into the camera weirdly. It wasn't better. I gotta get that one naturally. And where do they get hold of yous?
Oh, okay. Well, Gonzorific, GONZORIFFIC. You can watch some of the short films my friends and I have made on YouTube. You can watch some of our movies on Amazon Prime Video, at Vimeo on demand. You can also buy discs from us at gonzorific.com. We're on social media, Gonzorific on Twitter, Gonzorific on Instagram. And I guess, yeah, I finally did Juvenile Delinquents in Dr. Humpenstein's Erotic Castle, which you did the score for that one. I had a girl gang called the Sick Toys.
They were the roller derby girls, was it?
It was a mix. There were some.
Because that was pre the Burlesque crew, right?
It was actually, which was wild thinking about it now, because I had 5 strippers in Humpenstein before I knew people that took their clothes off on stage. It's like it was just a few months before it, and they all saw this, and then they all were like, "Oh, this is our kind of people." So
I mean, you've basically made this film a few times, which is
yeah,
and different shades, of course, but
happy to do it. Would love to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, this almost is a Gonzorific film with What About Juvenile Delinquency? Just add a little more scum in, again, John Waters style, and good to go.
The girl gang instead of the boys. Yeah, that would be me. I would love to.
That's yeah. Then you get Switchblade Sisters. Yeah.
Oh man, it's one of my favorite movies ever made.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe as soon as I said it, I was like, oh wait, we have to finish this. I shouldn't say that.
Let me tell you how deep Switchblade Sisters is with me. Speaking of the burlesque troupe, they bought a plaque for the back of the theater seat to sponsor the theater. It was this drive they were having in the local indie theater, where there's these metal engraved plaques on the back seats, and there's a quote from Switchblade Sisters on the one they bought for me.
All right. Which quote?
Pretty great.
What's a quote? What's a quote?
Oh, it's like, you got to have some muscle. Everybody's got to be in a gang.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So you got your gang seat in the theater,
Mhm.
which hopefully they'll let you inhabit at some point in the future.
You know, it should be devoutly wished that will occur.
Yeah. Japan does have open movie theaters, and I heard someone complaining. It's like on Sundays, like fuck it day. I think they stopped doing concessions, but someone was like, yeah, they didn't even like bother having like seats. It's like, well, on Sundays there's no COVID concerns. It's the rest of the week we'll do that.
COVID takes a day off.
Yeah. So I didn't go. That was someone told that to me, so I don't. Again, they haven't been releasing any movies, so there hasn't been anything to see here anyway. Scott, who's also on this podcast, I think he took his kids to see Kimetsu no Yaiba again yesterday because it's like the only movie playing. That's a Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I did, obviously in Japan we shout out the Japanese title there. So
No, that's cool. No, I always follow the box office. Like I always, even though you never know what's going to pop up on there. So
right. So I still haven't seen Tenet. I guess I need to do that.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah. One of my podcasts I listened to just talked about, so I'm like, I think I got to find Tenet somewhere. But
yeah,
I guess for now I'm going to go rear end some cars, as one does.
That's right. And then if the guy gets out and starts to give you some guff, you just check his chin. Boop boop.